Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Conference of Mayors President, Columbia Mayor Steve Benjamin.
Good morning. Good morning, friends and family. Welcome to the official opening session of the 86th annual meeting of the United States Conference of Mayors. I want to recognize our leaders, our friends, my second Vice President, Brian K. Barnett of Rochester Hills, our past President, Elizabeth Kautz of Burnsville, Minnesota, and our CEO and Executive Director, Tom Cochran, our trustees, our advisory board members, all of our committee chairs and leaders, all of our members of this organization. Is so excited to be here with you right now. A round of applause for our leaders, please. Now, if you would please join me in standing for the presentation of colors by the EMS Honor Guard and remain standing for our national anthem. The national anthem will now be sung by Roy Green. After the anthem, please remain standing as the color guard recedes.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the
Wow. Thank you. Please be seated. I want to thank Mr. Green. Good Lord, that's a beautiful voice. You can never judge a book by its cover. I saw bank president or, I don't know, tight end or something. I didn't see the voice of an angel there. That was amazing. That was amazing. The invocation will now be given by Pastor Ricky Grant of Rescued Church here in Boston.
Good morning. I'm the preacher. Y'all gotta give me a little more. Good morning. That's the energy. We here. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, surely this is the day that you have made, and we rejoice, and we're glad in it. We thank you for the opportunity to gather together at the 86th annual meeting for the United States Conference of Mayors. In Psalm 17, the songwriter wrote, "I pray to you because I know you bend down and listen." With that imagery in mind and that confidence in hand, I come before you on behalf of these brothers and sisters, these leaders, these mayors. Father, you know well the unique challenges that each of them face as they navigate the issues of immigration, social and systemic injustice, community development and housing, energy, and even the environment. God, I'm praying that you would strengthen them with your resilience as they guide their respective cities through these current obstacles. Father, I'm praying that you would continue to infuse them with your compassion for the vulnerable. God, as they craft and implement policies and set priorities for their respective budgets, may it reflect your concern for the broken. Lord, endow them with your wisdom. Touch their strategies and planning meetings. Father, your word says when we don't know what to do, we can ask you for wisdom, and you promise to supply it without finding fault. We thank you. And then finally, we lift up this conference to you. May it be a time of refreshing, a space for mutual encouragement and networking, a time of inspiration. Lord, move so powerfully that these brothers and sisters, yes, Lord, these leaders, these mayors, experience your empowering presence throughout the duration of this conference. We thank you for hearing our prayer. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you.
Thank you, Pastor Grant. Thank you so much. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our host, our fantastic host for this meeting, Mayor Marty Walsh. Marty was elected in 2014 and has been an active member and leader of the United States Conference of Mayors, serving on our advisory board, chairing our Substance Abuse and Recovery Task Force, and our Community Development Housing Committee. Now hosting, of course, our 86th annual meeting. The mayor has worked tirelessly with his team to prepare this conference, promising to show us the very best of this beautiful, rich, and historic city, and he has more than delivered. We're so fortunate to be here in Boston for the next several days, and I want to personally thank Mayor Marty Walsh for his work on our behalf. Mayors, please join me in welcoming the Mayor of Boston, Martin Walsh.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank Mayor Steve Benjamin, who's doing an incredible job. And I want to give a shout out to Brian Barnett as well, the vice chair who's sitting over here. Thank you for having a great conference in our city. It's an honor and a privilege to welcome all of you to Boston, Massachusetts for the 86th meeting of the United States Conference of Mayors. Boston is a city with a rich history leading into America into the future. Our first immigrants arrived here in 1630. We started a revolution, even though whatever Philadelphia says. And today, our high-tech and life science revolutions are changing the world. From America's first public schools to colleges and universities, which many of you in this room have attended, our culture is rooted in learning and discovery. To people all around the world, Boston means healing, teaching, science, startups, arts and culture, equal rights and justice. To me, Boston means America. My mother and father came to this country as immigrants. They didn't bring much with them when they came here, but they found opportunity. My dad joined the Laborers Union and helped build Boston's skyline. My mom built a community in three-decker homes and parish halls in our diverse neighborhood of Dorchester. I was born and raised here. I got a second chance through recovery here. And my dream came through here to serve as the city's 54th mayor. My life story is of this city. And the truth is, it's the story of cities all across America. Cities are the gateway for immigrants. Cities are the rallying grounds for change. Cities are the engines of opportunity that drive America forward. America needs cities now more than ever. Our nation faces make or break challenges. An opioid crisis that's devastating families from coast to coast. Gun violence that's traumatizing young people in city and suburban alike. Climate change that's putting the entire communities at risk. A housing crisis, income inequality, and a feeling among the hardest working people in the world that financial security is out of reach. We have solutions ready to roll. But the national conversation isn't working on this. Cities are different. Mayors are where people we serve every single day are working to help people. We see and hear exactly how these issues impact their lives. America's problems are not political abstractions to us. They're on our daily to-do list. That's why cities are moving forward. Look at what Steve Benjamin is doing, working on banning bump stocks in a deep red state. Eric Garcetti is securing an infrastructure investment of historic proportions. Karen Freeman Wilson is bringing back jobs and pride. Nan Whaley is standing up to pharmaceutical firms. And many of you in this room could be mentioned here today because that's where the work is getting done. Mayors are doing their job. And when we get together, when we share ideas and we join our voices, we take it to another level. We forge new national conversations, the kind Americans deserve, not with grandstanding or partisan games, but passion and purpose and respect the Americans we call not only our constituents, but we call them our neighbors. They are the people who inspire us. I think of Bostonians like Mothers for Justice and Equality. These women are homicide survivors who turn their grief into power. Or members of the One World Strong. In 2013, the Boston Marathon survivors who support victims of mass violence all across America and all across the world. They know that there are ways to grow stronger is to share their strength. And that's what we have to do, and that's what our job comes down to. That's why we work together at this conference and beyond this conference. From small cities to big cities, across red states, blue states, and purple states, in all of our different accents, mayors are talking to each other. Mayors are working together. We're working together on issues in our Recovery Service Toolkit that was presented in Miami last year to help any city or town step up their efforts to fight against addiction. It combines the knowledge of Boston's Office of Recovery Services with everything we've learned from other cities across America. We've worked with mayors together to form climate mayors after the White House withdrew from the Paris Agreement. 1 year later, we're not only upheld the agreement, but we've made new strides towards a sustainable future right here in Boston this week. And we're working together towards a more inclusive economy. There's an organization here in Boston called the Partnership. They've spent 30 years helping make our business leaders more diverse and more competitive. Now they're bringing their talent to Pittsburgh to work with Mayor Bill Peduto on a fellowship program modeled after the success here in Boston. The Partnership CEO, Carol Fulp, is here with us. I'd like to thank you, Carol, for taking your organization to Pittsburgh. The U.S. Conference of Mayors is the seedbed for which this kind of collaboration can grow. For me, it all starts with personal connections we make here. A story, a conversation, a relationship. These connections grow into a support system. We call each other for advice, and after a federal travel ban or an unexpected snowstorm, we're there to support each other. We are the first to offer help when tragedy strikes another one of our cities. We check in with each other on personal levels. That's a different kind of conversation than what's happening and that what America is seeing in today's politics. That's why the U.S. Conference of Mayors is so important right now at this moment in American history. And it's why I'm so proud to host this conversation right here in Boston, a city of firsts that's always thinking about what's next. I hope we will have a moment to think about what's happening in this city and enjoy this city. I invite you to soak in the Boston culture and the revolutionary innovation. You'll find it wherever you go, from the Freedom Trail, where we pioneered liberty, to the Black Heritage Trail, where we led the fight for justice. From the Boston Public Library, we are digitizing freedom knowledge, to our Boston Innovates open house, where we're bringing services to the city of Boston. You'll find it at the Pride Parade today, all the mayors that are marching with us in the Pride Parade today, or tomorrow you'll find it at the Bunker Hill Day Parade tomorrow. You'll find it in our startups and our schools every day of the week. It's the spirit of Boston, and it's the spirit of America. I want to thank you for bringing your spirit to the city that I love. I want to thank you for your contributions to our work, and I want to thank you for helping move America forward. And I welcome you once more to Boston for the 86th meeting of the United States Conference of Mayors. God bless you, and God bless the United States.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome U.S. Conference of Mayors CEO and Executive Director Tom Cochran.
Welcome to our 86th United States Conference of Mayors meeting. He was born in Queens, up north, and his mom and his daddy took him to the homeland of South Carolina. He entered the University of South Carolina. He was president of everything. He was president of the Student Bar Association. Then he went to law school, and he was president of the Student Bar Association, and he was president of the Student NAACP chapter. So inside of this young man is leadership. And ladies and gentlemen, on May 7th this year, in the city of Columbia, South Carolina, a special thing happened. 4 presidents of this organization went to Columbia, South Carolina. Mayor Joe Riley, the Dean of American Mayors, was there. Mayor Don Pasquale of Akron, Mayor Elizabeth Couts, and Mayor Doug Palmer. 4 presidents in the convention hall, packed by people, with his children, his mother and father, with his wife. We called the judge, and her mother and father, and we witnessed the inauguration of this person who now will become your president. So we have a special presentation. Let's look at it, and I'll come back out. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tom Cochran, CEO and Executive Director of the United States Conference of Mayors. On May 7th in Columbia, on behalf of the nation's mayors, we inaugurated Mayor Stephen Benjamin as our 76th president. Mayor Benjamin came to Columbia from Queens, New York, where he spent his formative years before moving to Columbia and entering the University of South Carolina. At the university, he was elected student body president and went on to become the president of the University of South Carolina School of Law Student Bar Association. Prior to becoming mayor, he served as a member of the governor's cabinet, where he was director of the South Carolina Probation, Pardon, and Parole Services. He now serves as our 76th president, which is the highest honor a mayor can receive from his peer mayors across our nation.
Columbia is a fantastic city. We took office in 2010 with a really bold vision about what we felt Columbia could be. We stressed the fact that we're one Columbia. Our young people, regardless of the zip code that they're born in, which schools they attend, I want to make sure everyone has equal opportunity to be their very best selves.
The opportunity for mayors to continue the great leadership that's happening in cities and metropolitan economies, indeed all over the world, is no greater than right now. Mayors roll up their sleeves every single day to get the job done. We know that when partisan politics and divisive rhetoric become the starting point for every conversation, it's mayors who are left standing there as we attempt to help our communities make sense of what is not happening in Washington, D.C., having to explain how an abundantly wealthy country can behave at times so morally bankrupt. We stand here today in our nation's capital in Washington, D.C., urging our fellow elected officials to act. While this is an incredible challenge that we have to solve, violence in America, it is indeed solvable. This is about people. This is about our children and about helping ensuring their safety and their security.
Mayors spend a great deal of time talking about building our cities and infrastructure. The greatest infrastructure that we can invest in is human infrastructure. If we help grow and nurture strong, independent, smart, healthy children, then I believe America's future is bright.
By the powers vested in me as the CEO and Executive Director of the United States Conference, on behalf of the nation's mayors, I hereby declare you to be the 76th President of the United States Conference of Mayors.
I know I speak for all of my colleagues gathered here today when I say the opportunity to serve the cities in this country is not one we take for granted. The responsibility is weighty, and that we recognize it's not about us, it's us working for the people who elected us to serve, and the opportunity to serve this organization is indeed an exciting opportunity that I believe can be transformational. Over the next 12 months, we're going to be focusing on infrastructure and investing in America. We're going to focus on innovation, preparing for our future, and we're going to focus on inclusion, preserving the ideal that is America. Thank you to all of you for being here, giving me the privilege and honor of serving you, and I ask that the Lord bless you and keep you and give you peace. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to present the 76th President of the United States Conference of Mayors, Mayor Steve Benjamin of Columbia, South Carolina.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much, Tom. I've had the privilege of the last several days to spend at least a few moments with so many of my predecessors, Mayor Doug Palmer, Stephanie Rawlings-Blake, Don Plasquelic, Wellington Webb, Manny Diaz, Mitch Landrieu, and Michael Nutter. Of course, my fellow South Carolinian Joe Riley always stays in my head and in our hearts. And obviously, Mayor Elizabeth Couts, our only still serving president of this organization, all friends and mentors. And I will tell you, this is indeed a humbling experience. It is fitting that we're having this conference in Boston with Marty Walsh and his team. When we were founded in 1932, the mayor of this great city, Mayor James Michael Curley, was one of the original 7 members to lobby Washington after leaving the chartering convention in the city of Detroit. These 7 mayors went to Washington because our cities facing the Great Depression were suffering. Our parents and grandparents were left wanting for food, wanting for jobs, wanting for leadership that understood their value. They found that leadership not in Washington, but they found it at City Hall. 86 years later, finds us here today where the leaders in this room are the ones solving the nation's problems and literally lifting up our neighbors. When I say leaders, I'm not just talking about our mayors. I mean our modern global business leaders in this room with us today. Every one of us in this room today has the ability through your nonprofit, your private company, your startup, through your civil service, through your foundation, to make hundreds of millions of citizens who are represented here not forgotten. This is a gift, a duty, to use our abilities for the betterment of each other. It is amazing the way that the world has changed since our humble beginnings. I had a chance to review the new McKinsey Global Smart Cities report that shows how digital solutions are creating a more livable future for each and every one of us. It shows how a commitment to data and building a true innovation economy and regulatory schemes that allow for the deployment of private sector capital to meet public sector needs, how we can see a 30 to 40% reduction in crime, up to 15% lower chronic disease burdens, increased productivity by shaving 15 to 30 minutes off of our daily commute times, how we can conserve 25 to 80 liters of water per person per day, how we can see faster emergency response times and save lives. Amazing innovations happen globally that will help advance the fortunes of American cities. In our cities, Washington won't find Americans who want handouts. Washington will find hard-working men and women who want a fair playing field, who want the opportunity to earn a good living. Come to Columbia. Washington will find Americans who are creative, who are entrepreneurs, Americans who pay their taxes, Americans who serve in our military, who are committed to the same ideals as you and I. These ideals are the basis of the unity that gives us strength, the ideal that we must leave this world better than we found it. We work every day so that those who come after us, again, have opportunities greater than we do. We must continue to focus on unifying ideals to accomplish our goals of infrastructure, innovation, and inclusion. If we focus on what divides us, we will never see the potential of our talents. We are seeing the fruits of our collective labors. I'm pleased to announce that our U.S. metro cities continue to drive the nation's economic growth, accounting for over 91% of our nation's gross domestic product, 91.6% of our wage income, and 88% of all jobs in 2017. But listen to this. Last year, our cities in the metro regions accounted for 95.9% of our growth in GDP, equaling $337 billion. So 99.5% of all new jobs started in this room, These numbers are astounding and illustrate the incredible role that we play in our nation's future. It's clear that the health of our metro economies is key to our nation's economic prosperity. We must continue to carry this message to Washington and across the country. If cities are strong, then indeed America will be strong. This is why we as a nation's mayors have to never stop advocating for a national infrastructure bill to make our country stronger. We'll never stop being the laboratories of inclusion that makes everyone feel welcome, and we'll never stop innovating to make our local governments more efficient and business-friendly. We'll never stop representing the 86% of Americans who live in our borders and in our communities, who want to see their government work better for everyone. It is an incontrovertible fact that cities are driving the American economy and our robust growth, and we're seeing it in our city too. In Columbia, South Carolina, the capital of our great state, we're home to Carnegie Research One University and the University of South Carolina, two fantastic historically black colleges, universities, in Benedict College and Allen University, the very best technical college in the entire country, in Midlands Technical College. Victory starts in Columbia at Fort Jackson, the Army's largest training base in the world, training a preponderance of the men and the majority of all the women in the Army.
We are a cosmopolitan microcosm of world society with citizens from 200 different countries who speak 90 different languages. With all the great things we have going on in insurance technology and future fuels, I will tell you, I love telling people about what actually happens when you walk off post, or you walk off campus, or outside of the halls of our state government. What makes our city special, and it's the people. It's the people. That you can still find men in Columbia who open doors for ladies. You still find people who still pull over for funeral processions. I tell them we aren't reticent about thanking God for his many blessings in our lives. You can still find sweet tea in restaurants in Columbia, South Carolina. And people indeed still know the power of two of the most important words in the English language. And those words are very simply, thank you. Thank you. So let me take a moment to say thank you to all of my friends and colleague mayors. Thank you for entrusting me with this responsibility and the honor to lead our organizations. From small cities to large cities, we continue to drive this incredible American experience, the greatest and most powerful democratic nation in the history of the world. Thank you for being mentors. Thank you for being colleagues, confidants when we have challenges in our city, and certainly when we need guidance here at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. All of our mayors, please stand for a round of applause. All mayors, please stand. Stand. America's mayors roll strong, we roll deep, we roll together. This is our organization, and we will lead it together. I'm so thankful to each and every one of you. Thank you. I want to say thank you to my fantastic team from Columbia, to Hayward and Lauren and Ariel and Shalane, Chris and Chief Holbrook and Chief Kelly. I have Ralph and Deborah from our Washington office here, working every single day to make our capital city a better place. I want to thank Tom Cochran. Tom and the entire United States Conference of Mayors staff who have been the trusted stewards of America's cities since our inception in 1932. Tom, I look forward to working with you. I promise that we will always value you and respect your commitment to this wonderful organization. I want to thank my friend Brian Barnett. Where is Brian? Brian, you know, every time we walk into a room, people say, here comes the smart mayor and the good-looking mayor. And then they say, oh, here comes Brian Barnett, too. All of you who know Brian knows that he deserves that. And I will be recompensed over time with the same amount of levity. Together, over the next 2 years, we're going to combine our talents and work together to build our nation's infrastructure, to invest in innovation, and speak and advance policies that speak to the value of the human spirit to all of us. As we focus on the next 2 years, we commit to restore bipartisanship to our national political discussion, civility to our public discourse, respect to the pursuit of public service, and humility to the opportunity to serve, courage to pursuit of justice. We know that only together can we rebuild the bones of this country through our focus on infrastructure, the mind of this country through our focus on innovation, and the soul of this country through our focus on inclusion. If we do this, then our children will again inherit a better country than we did. As mayors, we must continue to be that national and constant voice. Brian, thank you for your partnership, brother. Looking forward to working with you, my man. And thank you to my family, my mom and dad, Sam and Maggie, Benjamin. If God had allowed me to pick my own parents, I couldn't have done a better job. Thank you for nurturing my curiosity, pushing me to be the young man that you needed me to be. And thank you for serving as a wonderful example of what love should look like. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This part was not expected. I didn't get that. Lord have mercy. Okay. We're going to make it through here. How about that?
Mr. and Mrs. Gist, my fantastic in-laws. I actually love my in-laws, guys. I don't know about you guys. Thank you for entrusting me with your daughter. I've always appreciated it, but never as much until we became parents, and I understood the unconditional love that comes with that blessed experience. And I thank you for being fantastic, fantastic in-laws. To my sister-in-law, Cynthia, my mom's and dad's friends, the Goals and Doris, who I know are in here somewhere, thank you for making the special trip to Boston. It's made this experience that much more special. Many of you have met my wonderful, oh, please. Many of you have met my wonderful wife, DeAndre. I tell her every day that she is the best thing that ever happened to me, and she agrees with me. DeAndre, thank you for being my best friend, being my rock, always having my back. Thank you for 16 years of marriage yesterday. And for loving me in spite of myself sometimes, all right? Bethany and Jordan Grace. My children know that I'm not given much to hyperbole. So you know that I mean it with every ounce, every fiber of my being, that you are the most incredible gifts that God could have ever given to me and your mom. Watching you grow into brilliant, kind, thoughtful, compassionate, prayerful young ladies has added a dimension to my sense of purpose that I find it very difficult to articulate at times. Your growth edifies me. You are the source of our joy. And we're so thankful for you. I pray that you will always be your authentic and compassionate selves. The world needs you. The world needs you. So thank you. For decades, the United States Conference of Mayors has taken a strong position in support of civil rights and opposition to racism and discrimination of all kinds. Following the protests in Charlottesville in 2017, working with the Anti-Defamation League, the conference launched the Mayor's Compact to combat hate, extremism, and bigotry, to promote the fundamental principles of justice and equality that define America. More than 325 mayors signed on. The most recent and largest mayoral action for diversity and inclusion have signed the compact, committing to fight inequities and create inclusive and compassionate cities. In recognition of the strong response to the Mayor's Compact, the conference is launching the Mayors and Business Leaders Center for Inclusive and Compassionate Cities. An important goal of the center is to create a strong, committed partnership between mayors and business leaders inside the conference and to collaborate on visions of success and make our cities and ultimately our nation stronger, more equitable, more compassionate, and more inclusive. Inclusion is good for our economy, good for business, good for cities, and good for our nation. The center will work with an initial gift from a founding member, the Walmart Corporation. Please, a round of applause from Walmart, please. A founding member, and will support and advance the Mayor's Compact with sustained action through collaboration, education, and awareness, information sharing technical assistance and best practices. We're inviting the business community to join in building this center as founding members as well, as we advance sustainable change in our cities and our country. We're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty of what it takes to build inclusive communities, collecting and disseminating best practices, providing information and technical assistance, recognizing exemplary efforts, facilitating mayoral conversations and community conversations, targeting communities to bring together civic, business, and community leaders to build trust. We've had some fantastic leadership in this space in Louisville, in Anaheim, and other cities across the country. We're going to do some great things together as we focus on intentionally building inclusive and compassionate cities. I, again, draw my inspiration from my girls, as I know many of you do. Bethany and Jordan Grace, they don't know how their conversations with me and their mother shape our policy making in our city every single day. I don't worry a lot about the Benjamin girls. I probably will as they go into teenagerhood, I guess. But I worry each day. I go to bed at night, I wake up in the morning, want to make sure I'm building a city so that all children, regardless of who they are or whose they are, what zip code they live in, which side of town they live in, that they have the same opportunities that my children have. Indeed, I remember a conversation we had with Bethany and Jordan Grace, DeAndre and I did 7 years ago. 7 years ago, we lost a leader in our church, Mrs. Betty Cunningham, who was a pioneering educator and was Bethany's very first piano instructor. Taught her to play like a mighty stream, lift every voice and let us sing, and every song let freedom ring. From every soul comes a noble dream, let justice roll like a mighty stream. And Bethany developed an affection for her. Well, over the holidays, the Christmas holidays, Miss Cunningham became ill, and she passed away just before Valentine's Day. And DeAndre and I struggled for about a week trying to decide how we were going to share the news with Bethany and the girls, especially because we knew on Sunday the pastor was going to talk about it at church, so the clock was ticking. We're going to have this conversation. We left Valentine's dinner and we sojourned home in the car and decided we were just going to have the conversation. I guess Bethany was about 6 years old then. And it started like this. Bethany, Mrs. Cunningham, passed away. She said, what does that mean, passed away? And we said, well, she died. And of course, to which her younger sister, Jordan Grace, 2 years younger, quickly goes into panic mode. Died. How did she die? To which DeAndre and I were just trying to figure out what to say next. And I remember it almost like it was verbatim. Bethany stopped her sister in her tracks, 6 years old and 4 years old. And she says, Jordy, it doesn't matter how she died. It matters how she lived. And Mrs. Cunningham lived a good life. And it's going to be all right. And said, Daddy, she gets to be with Mr. Cunningham in heaven now. That quote reminded me that not that I was mayor, but why I became mayor of Columbia, South Carolina. Hopefully it reminds each and every one of you as well. It matters how we live. This conference has given us, by unifying our cities, a means to contribute to the whole of life in this country on a grand scale. The convening of mayors of different party affiliations and backgrounds, different upbringings and geographical perspectives brought together to collaborate for a purpose that accomplishes things far greater collectively than we could ever do separately. Recognizing that cities are not only where our people live, it's also where they hope and where they dream. It's where their passions live. The heart of the people is found in our cities. And we have a lot to be proud of here, a lot to be thankful for here at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. We are not some homogeneous assembly of identical faith and experience. We have no litmus tests. We have no loyalty oath. We have no voter ID. Instead, we are a congregation of diversity, a delegation of variety, a convention that defies convention. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, your race, your creed, your color, your sexual orientation or national origin, what God you pray to, or if you pray at all. We join together in the same spirit of brotherhood, sisterhood, and community. We're business owners and union organizers. We're teachers and students. We're police officers and firefighters. We're peace activists and soldiers. All of us coming together under the same roof and sharing the very same American dream. You don't need your long-form birth certificate because we are America. We are the daughters of the American Revolution and the sons of immigrants, unified not by platform or dogma, but in the fundamental democratic belief that if you see a man get knocked down, you don't just say it's a shame. You help him get back on his feet. If you're walking by a family stuck in the mud, you don't just pretend you didn't see them. You put your own shoulder to the wheel until they are free. And if you see your neighbor struggling under the weight of his circumstance. You don't let him carry that weight alone. You carry it with him until you can both put it down together. I am a mayor because I am my brother's keeper. I am a mayor. I am a mayor because I can't look at a child squirreling away food on her food tray at school to feed her younger brothers and sisters at home and do nothing to help. I am a mayor because when I see a mother struggling with diabetes or a father with hypertension, I don't see a pre-existing condition. I see a child of God in pain. I am a mayor because I can't watch a little girl in my city struggle with asthma in 2018 and not commit myself to leading the transition away from fossil fuels to 100% clean and renewable energy for all of our people. I'm a mayor because I believe that education is not a luxury, it is a human right. I'm a mayor because I believe that my right to bear arms also comes with grave responsibilities as well, and we will fight for them. I'm a mayor. I'm a mayor because I believe that our children should be able to go to school, that our babies should be able to go learn without having to worry about coming home safe every single day. We have to fight for our children. I am a mayor because I believe that all people want the opportunity to earn a good living, and they're relying on us to do that. I recognize you cannot pull yourself up by your bootstraps if you have no boots at all. Poverty is real, still. Income volatility is real. The future of our country depends on us. The future of work depends on us. The dignity of work depends on us. I'm a mayor because we have to embrace that responsibility. I'm a mayor because our Constitution does not read we the politicians. It does not read we the shareholders or we the wealthy. It says we the people, and we the people who lead America's cities are in this moment for such a time as this to rise and meet the challenges of the 21st century head on. My friends, it matters how we live. And as we take this journey together, I pray that the Lord blesses you and keeps you. He makes his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. He lifts his countenance upon you and gives you peace. Thank you, and God bless you. I paid close attention to the continuity. I lost everything afterwards. Thank y'all. I'd like to thank all of our sponsors for this wonderful event, our 86th annual meeting. Our title sponsors, Airbnb, American Heart Association, American Tower Corporation, AT&T, Bank of America, Civic, Dell Technologies, Facebook, HDR, the International Association of Firefighters, who are so excited. I think they had about 40 folks go do fire ops yesterday. Jacobs Engineering Group, McDonald's Corporation, National Apartment Association, Pacific Gas and Electric Company, PepsiCo, Postmates, Signify, formerly known as Philips Lighting, Raytheon, ShotSpotter Incorporated, Uber Technologies Incorporated, Walmart, the Walton Family Foundation, Waste Management Incorporated, Waymo, and Wells Fargo. Please give all of them a round of applause. I want to thank Airbnb for being our title sponsor this year, and welcome my dear friend Janae Ingram and Kelly Bentz to the stage for a few remarks. Janae is the Director of National Partnerships for Airbnb. a home-sharing platform that connects travelers with unique travel experiences around the world while creating economic and entrepreneurship opportunities for hosts and communities. She is also one of the founders and national organizers of the Women's March and planned the Women's March in Washington, serving as the head of logistics. Janae has served as National Executive Director for the civil rights organization, the National Action Network. Kelly is Airbnb's Director of Disaster Response. She serves currently as the head of Global Disaster Response and Relief for Airbnb. She manages a team that responds to disasters and crises that impact their community of over 4 million hosts in 190 countries. She has led responses ranging from the flooding in the US to earthquakes in Mexico City. Kelly also teaches crisis meta leadership at as an affiliate faculty with the National Preparedness Leadership Initiative, a joint program with the Harvard School of Public Health and the Kennedy School of Government. Please welcome Janae and Kelly.
Good morning, and thank you to my good friend, newly minted U.S. Conference of Mayors President Steve Benjamin. That was quite the speech. So glad to know him. I'm actually thrilled to talk to you all today about Airbnb and our commitment to partnering with cities. Airbnb was founded in 2008 when all of the hotels in San Francisco were completely booked for a large design conference. Our co-founders, they didn't have enough money to pay their rent, but they also recognized the need to expand the options for travelers coming into town and looking for a place to stay. So believe it or not, they inflated some air mattresses and built a website to connect people with travelers with people who have extra space. A lot has changed since then. We've grown into the world's largest community-driven hospitality platform with nearly 5 million listings around the globe. That's more than all the top 5 hotel chains' rooms combined. Our host community now extends across 191 countries in over 81,000 cities, providing local, authentic travel to millions of people. So whether you're looking for a room in someone's home, an entire apartment, or even a French castle in the countryside, Airbnb is proud to offer a little something for everyone. Over a year ago, Airbnb announced the most significant development in the company's history, the rollout of Airbnb experiences. A natural extension of the local authentic accommodations provided by our homes hosts, experiences provide thousands of opportunities for travelers to immerse themselves in the vibrant neighborhoods that make our communities great. Airbnb experiences empower thousands of entrepreneurs to showcase their passions to an audience of millions. These experiences have become incredibly popular with both hosts and guests. In fact, global weekly guest bookings for Airbnb experiences are up over 2,500% compared to the same week last year. Experiences are playing a critical role in Airbnb's vision of becoming an end-to-end travel platform, and we're excited to offer 10,000 experiences in nearly 180 cities. By the end of this year, we'll have expanded to at least another 1,000 experiences around the world. With travel becoming an increasingly big piece of economies around the globe, now accounting for 10% of global GDP, we're committed to ensuring that local communities and their people are primary beneficiaries of the tourism economy. Earlier this year, we announced the Office of Healthy Tourism, which will foster initiatives that drive economic growth in communities, empower destinations from major cities to emerging markets, and support environmental sustainability. So what exactly do we mean by healthy tourism? Well, 88% of Airbnb hosts around the world are incorporating environmentally friendly practices into hosting. Around the world, Airbnb has collected and remitted over $700 million in occupancy taxes to date. In cities around the US, we're also partnering with the NAACP to raise awareness about hosting and promote travel within communities of color. And recently, we were in the state of Florida, and we were thrilled to announce our partnership with NAACP there alongside your very own friend, and my friend as well, Mayor Oliver Gilbert from Miami Gardens, who's over there. Hey, Mayor. And just last month, Puerto Rico Governor Ricardo Rosselló and Airbnb co-founder, CEO, and head of community Brian Chesky announced a new partnership to drive tourism to the island and support the region as it recovers after Hurricane Maria. As part of this effort, we launched experiences on the island and will donate all of our fees from trips booked in Puerto Rico for the next 3 months to organizations, including All Hands and Hearts. It's important that we do all that we can to help communities during disasters. In fact, in 2012, a host from New York City told Airbnb she wanted to open her home for free to people impacted by Hurricane Sandy. This idea, our host community opening their doors for free to people in need, really served as a catalyst for what would become our disaster response program. When disasters strike, we work with local governments to provide temporary accommodations for those in need. If there is a need that our hosts might be able to support, Airbnb contacts hosts in the impacted and surrounding areas, asking if they have extra space that they would like to share at no cost with their displaced neighbors. The hosts waive their fees, and we waive ours. To date, our host community has donated nearly 17,000 nights and counting. And today, I want to share the story of one of these hosts.
I was with both my parents and my son during Hurricane Harvey. We knew for sure that we didn't want to stay here because we live in a flood zone. I have a son, and so we couldn't take any chances. You know, what about the animals? What about the house? Money was another issue. Where do we go? You know, what do we do?
Airbnb had sent out an email. It had basically said, are you willing to open up your home? America had messaged us.
She has a kid a similar age, and the only thing we could think about is, man, that could be us.
We don't have much monetarily to give, but we can give ourselves in some capacity, and we can host. You can truly make a difference in a family's life that's going through a really bad experience. A few good nights' sleep and some hot meals and hot showers go a long way for a family that's been displaced.
Just by opening up your home, it just helps tremendously. I don't even know how else to describe it. It's just a major impact.
The past year has been an incredibly busy year for so many of you, and for our disaster team too. During Hurricane Harvey, over 700 hosts opened their homes between August 31st and October 9th. Over 230 hosts from Central Florida to Atlanta, Georgia, opened their homes to evacuees and relief workers during Hurricane Irma. Over 900 hosts across the Bay Area opened their homes to evacuees and relief workers during the Northern California wildfires. After the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando, Florida, through the donation of travel coupons and the generosity of hosts in partnership with local government, Airbnb placed over 150 people in temporary accommodations. And even right now, our community is opening their doors to those in need in Hawaii. 30 hosts in Hawaii County have opened their homes to evacuees and relief workers to date. Now, I'm thrilled to introduce Kelly Bentz, Airbnb's Global Head of Disaster Response and Relief, to talk more about our work with cities during disasters. Kelly?
Thank you, Janae. I'm truly honored and grateful to be here with all of you. Janae gave a great overview of our community and our overall global response efforts, particularly over the last year. Our team is working tirelessly to ensure that we're evolving our product, or what we created as a product, into a full and robust program to support all of you and your communities. Since Hurricane Sandy, we've grown and developed the product into a full program with a team dedicated solely to disaster response and relief, working with our community, local and federal government partners, and nonprofit partners to prepare for, respond to, and recover from disasters. How our program works. Right now, when a disaster strikes, Our team researches and starts digging into what's going on locally. We reach out to partners, government, nonprofit partners, and private sector partners. We understand the need, and we begin sending messaging to all of our hosts and guests in that area with typically your local information, emergency management agencies, in addition to the local relevant updates. If temporary accommodations are in need, we automatically send an email to all of our hosts in the area asking them if they're willing to open their homes for $0. Additionally, we work with local media outlets and social media to recruit new hosts outside of the Airbnb community to increase the amount of hosts we have to support those in need. Now, you may think we have a massive team behind this global effort. However, we are a small and mighty team, and we are growing. So we're building out a product team of engineers that is able to build out and scale this product in addition to our operational capacity to support more communities around the world in the greatest time of need. This will allow us to provide more temporary accommodations to those that are in need, in addition to relief workers that are deployed to support the response. What have we learned? We've learned a lot from cities like yourselves. We've learned that government partners, specifically your emergency management agencies and teams, are absolutely critical to the success of the response and recovery, and particularly our program. Additionally, emergency management agencies are important conveners. They bring together the public sector, the private sector, and the nonprofit sector to help your communities recover. We can do more than just a support and response. We're able to help your communities prepare. And what's new about the product to allow us to do this? Before disaster strikes, we're now able to build a community ready to respond. So we're able to ask hosts to list their space and say that they are willing to host in a time of need. Which brings us to our next point and our announcement. So since early of last year, when parts of San Jose experienced severe flooding and members of our community opened their homes to those in need, we've been in conversations with Mayor Liccardo and his team on determining how we can better help prepare their community for the next disaster. Today, we're incredibly proud to announce that we're partnering with the City of San Jose to make this a reality. And I'd like to thank Mayor Liccardo for his leadership in this effort. In the coming months, we will be working on a partnership where we do preparedness trainings with their emergency management agency. We have host recruitment events, and we do a three-pronged digital campaign, which will include social media ad buys, social media communications, and email distribution to both our Airbnb hosts, but also the San Jose constituency at large. Additionally, we will be creating operational protocols with our emergency management agency to ensure that we're communicating most effectively in a response so that we understand when our host community is needed to provide temporary accommodations for those in need. And we want to partner with more cities like all of you. So we'd love for you to come visit us at our booth or email us at mayors@airbnb.com. Thank you. Back to you, Janae.
Thank you, Kelly. Lastly, we want to just really thank each and every one of you. We've had the opportunity to work with so many of you, and we look forward to working with you more in the months and years to come. So thank you.
Thank you so much, both Kelly and Janae. As mayors, we all have the common goal of building sustainable cities, places where innovation, robust economies, and inclusion can thrive. Our next panel will explore building sustainable communities and sharing success in America's cities. I want you to welcome to the stage the Chairman and CEO of Bank of America, Brian Moynihan, and our host mayor, Boston Mayor Marty Walsh. As head of the nation's second largest bank, Mr. Moynihan leads a company whose purpose is to make financial lives better for millions of Americans and businesses and cities all across our country. Brian, welcome to the U.S. Conference of Mayors.
For starters, I want to say thank you to Bank of America for partnering with us and as a founding sponsor of our DollarWise financial literacy campaign. The Bank of America's support has helped us promote financial education in all of our cities, particularly in our Summer Youth Jobs Program, and we appreciate the collaboration. All of us would agree that to have sustainable cities, we must provide opportunities for our youth. Mayor Walsh, I know this is an issue that's very close to you. Your Summer Jobs Program has long been considered nationally a gold standard program. I'm wondering if the both of you might comment briefly on how important these summer jobs have been and programs have been in your community.
Thank you, Mayor, and I want to thank Brian and Bank of America, first of all, for helping sponsor. On Thursday, many of the mayors came to the Climate Summit, and Bank of America was our lead sponsor there, so thank you for that the other day. Summer jobs are key to just about everything we do in the city. Trying to make sure that we employ our young people in the summer, and we're starting to look at year-round jobs in Boston after school are key. Bank of America is one of our top leaders as far as hiring young people in Boston. They hire 110 young people every summer. We have about 11,000 summer jobs that we provide to kids throughout the city of Boston in the summertime. Roughly 8,000 of those are private sector jobs. The key for the private sector jobs is twofold. One is it helps recruit talent for the companies, and these are high school kids, so they have an opportunity to kind of follow their careers through college, and a lot of young people go to college with that. Allows the young people to have put a few extra dollars in their pocket and keep them focused. But the private sector, they do it differently. They cultivate a relationship. Kids gain mentorship. They get an understanding of an industry. Rather than having a summer job working for the city that might be sweeping the streets or doing other things, having that opportunity to work in an office setting really changes them. And I see it throughout the year because these young people come back, and oftentimes companies will have follow-ups throughout the year to keep tabs on these young people, and you can see a boost in their step. And this year in Boston, Bank of America hosted a new employer summit for us to bring all employers that are in our city that are new, some of their clients, to a room to hear 3 or 4 young people, actually it was 4 young people, talk about what they're doing and the impact they have on their life. So it really is key. So any of us dealing with the issues of crime, income inequality, areas of any type of problem, summer jobs is a good, positive thing we can all do. And I know other cities have tried to take the ideas from us.
And so the mayor and his predecessors here, this has been a program for a long time, and he keeps improving it. And I think for those mayors out there, the idea of learning from each other that you guys sponsor across is terrific. And as a corporate person with operations around the country, we see the better and not so better, so we're here to help. I'd say the only thing to add, and then we can get into other topics, is one of the things that Mayor Walsh talked about was that connectivity. And one of the things we just announced yesterday, as part of our recruiting, we've announced we're going to hire 10,000 teammates from low and moderate income neighborhoods. And part of the way we find teammates and get a relationship with them and bring them into our company, and these teammates ultimately come into our consumer academy, and it can be after college, it can be before college, where they'll get a in-house university type training. And so 10,000 people coming from the neighborhoods that we have to help make successful, who will be veterans of these types of programs, and the connectivity is really valuable for us as an employer. We want to have a great diverse population, but we also want to have people that are connected to their local communities and provide support for them. So there's other elements that we build on top of this.
Absolutely, and I'm going to have some questions on that. I think that's a fantastic approach. I want to get to 20,000 feet for a second. I mean, you sit in some interesting rooms and have some incredibly great data at your disposal. What do you see happening in the economy? What's happening? I mean, what's exciting? What keeps you up at night?
Well, if you think about from a U.S. perspective, and we're in a U.S. context here, the good news is the U.S. is going to grow faster in 18 by everybody's prediction over 17. You see unemployment levels down below 4%. You see consumer spending at our customer base, which is about 10, 12% of the GDP goes through our customer base, or consumers, 10% over last year, which was 6% of the year before, so that's accelerating, and all that bodes well for the economy. So that's the good news. The economy's in good shape between deregulation, tax reform, the flywheel that the big U.S. economy keeps pushing, and as it does, it goes a little faster. That's all good. The other question is the issues that all you struggle with, which is, we need to find housing in urban environments. We need to make sure we have an immigration policy which keeps bringing people in this country and works, because at the end of the day we need more workers than now we have. We have more job openings and we have people looking for work, and then the skill alignment. And so that's, when I talk to my business customers, their biggest worry, trade is in the dialogue now, but their biggest worry fundamentally is, can I get talented people to do these jobs, and can I keep them? And that's difficult right now, because at this level of unemployment, it's spectacular for you as mayors and your city economy, but it's also tough as an employer.
I mean, you've touched on issues already of responsible growth and sustainable growth. Tell us a little bit more about what responsible growth means to Bank of America.
Well, when we think about our company, think about our company having come through the crisis, and we worked a lot of the mayors out here to work through the housing crisis. What I try to do with the management team, and it said, how do we keep people focused that we have to be successful, at the same time do it the right way? And so we started about 3 or 4 years ago really talking about responsible growth. You've got to grow, no excuses. You got to do it on a customer-focused basis. You got to do it with the right risk, and it's got to be sustainable. And sustainable has 3 elements: best place for people to work, share our success with our communities, and drive operational excellence, which you could translate to being long-term thinking. We're going to invest in the future at all times, but we got to create the opportunity by making the company more effective. And so what's relevant here is that sustainability is both environmental, our social and volunteer work we do, and in how we govern ourselves and how we behave. And that's what really we try to work with mayors like yourself in Columbia, to what programs, what we can make, share our success with the community and make the community more successful, and that will sustain our company.
Absolutely. Marty, so tell us, Brian mentioned sustainable growth. How does this play into your planning, your vision for Boston?
Well, it's interesting. We had a housing meeting today, and it was done fairly quickly, so we have an open dialogue. And what we talked about was the housing costs in cities and towns across America. And we spoke about the lack of involvement by the federal government and not having a conversation there. And the main topic was we talked about the housing plan that we created in Boston to create 53,000 units of new housing by the year 2030. We're at 52,000 units now, 26,000 in the planning process, meaning going through the process of city government. And we have about 17,000 built, constructed, and another 9,000 that's under construction. So we're ahead of space as far as the housing, but there's still such a need, because what's happening is poorer people being pushed out of the city. And as Brian talked about the future growth of America and what has to happen, I think every single mayor almost in this room is going through the same challenge, trying to create housing, come up with a plan. And I really think this is where the conference, Brian, can do a lot of good work by having mayors focus on the issues you talked about. And the issues you bring up, we talk about. We talk about housing every meeting we have. We talk about the growth of housing. We're talking about immigration. Mayor Tate from Anaheim, California in 2016 stood at a podium at a press conference and said that he was concerned about what was coming out of Washington, because he was worried about his employees in Anaheim. So those issues that you talk about, I think it's important for us to align with the mayors of America, because as you said, we said backstage, we can get things done and do things, and I think, but we have to understand what needs to be done fully. Right. And I think that hopefully we can do more of that. And in Boston, we have a great relationship with Bank of America. Michal Chamberlain, Bank of America, Massachusetts is here, so we work very closely together. So I do think for us as mayors, what we have to do is plan and have a good, strong, solid plan, working with the economy. Because if the economy goes down, we all know, no matter what we're doing, what we want to work on, if the economy goes down, we're toast.
But just to follow up on that, I think it's interesting as you look across it. I'd say one thing for you as all mayors is, there's a great line from the show Hamilton that immigrants get the job done. The reality is, in politics, mayors get the job done, and we know that. So corporate America, corporate world. So whether I'm with my peers from around the world or around the U.S. or in a particular state or jurisdiction, the thing that we all focus on is the mayors can deliver, because you have the executive power, you have the locality. And so be aggressive with your corporate, like us and other people like us, to invite us to help you figure out these questions on housing and stuff. And you look, it's very different. So in a city like Charlotte, where our headquarters is, our issue was we didn't have, because it grown so fast, there was never an issue like a Boston where you had just a housing market that had consolidated and things like that. So the issue was they never had to have the kind of low-income housing tax credit work or the kind of things LISC has brought to cities. And so we, with other people, brought LISC in to help them figure out those kinds of equations or bringing them in. And Hugh McCall, one of our predecessors, we put up $50 million. The mayors put up $50 million in their budget or proposed to, and we're going to try to match it to try to figure out solutions. But it's a different question for worker housing there in a fast-growing city versus it is a more mature city. But my real point to the mayors is we'll help you. We know you can get the job done, so don't worry about that. Bring us together and then, frankly, be aggressive asking us to help, but then rely on our expertise and our talent and our ideas to help you rather than try to figure out a new solution, because the road here is paved many times and we can figure it out.
Well, that's fantastic, and you answered my next two questions, as a matter of fact. So, no, I think it's so important to all of us as we're seeing incredible growth in the metro areas that we remain a city for all people. Yeah. And good, tried and true strategies that we're seeing piloted in different areas. We want to continue to build strong partnership with the company in doing that.
And if you think about housing, I think about two questions. There's homeless shelters and all that, and then there's workforce housing. And you got to be careful that you think about it two different ways, and because there's a lot of private-public partnership money here. This is more social service programming, and they're both critically important, and corporate America can help. But on one side, especially the financial institutions, we can help a lot. On the other side, it's more of our charitable work, and the question is how do you start to bring the capital in and get that kind of investment going, and that's the trick.
There are definitely thoughtful ways to leverage private sector capital to help meet public policy needs in ways in which everyone wins.
And both are critical. I'm not making light. They're both very important.
And our goal is to take the homeless population that we have here, or the very severely, below the poverty line, and work them into the middle class. So our goal as a mayor, my goal is that you have somebody today that might be homeless and tomorrow could be going to a bank to get a loan to buy a home. And I think that we have to, it's a pathway, and I think we have to continue work that pathway.
Are either of you seeing some new financing or investment tools being brought to the table in different cities that might be worth highlighting here?
Well, last year we did $4.5 billion of development financing through Maria Barra and her team, part of which is low-income housing, tax credits in the traditional sense, and others more inventive. And these opportunity zones, some of the stuff that's created by the tax things, you have to learn because it's new stuff. And it's going to provide money, but we need to figure out how to get seed money to get the ideas started and then bring the financing. Yeah. But the financing's there. The markets are open. They're looking for opportunities to invest. And so our job is to help you think that through as a mayor. But I think the other key is to get enough seed money and get the program really outlined. Like we did, the mayor's leadership in Boston here with a group of the business community and a whole bunch of people have thought through, really beginning back when we were talking about the Olympics and things like that, how many housing units did we need? It focused us on how far we were behind, I think, and then you stepped in and started driving an answer, but so part of it's a plan. That takes some seed money. I think we paid for some studies and things like that. We've done that in various cities. And then you have real financing. And then the new tax code has some stuff in it that people have to learn, and I think it's going to be kind of interesting, especially at the local level.
We're always trying to figure out opportunity zones where we've been spending a lot of time in that space, and we're excited about the potential there. How's technology changing the way you interface with your customers, changing consumer behavior and expectations?
So I just got a note this morning. We just crossed over 1 million people using Erica, which is our voice-activated artificial intelligence agent to be able to do mobile banking. So you open up your mobile banking, Erica, what's my balance? It'll pop it up. That only started 4 weeks ago, so we have 1 million people using it. So I think the key thing for everybody to think about, whether in the business community or what all you do for a living, is whereas we were pushing technology into the environments before to get people to use things. So if you start, depositing checks, we got people to deposit the ATM. We took a lot of work getting to do that. Because everybody is so used to operating in a mobile platform today, when we put mobile check processing and you take the picture and send it in, 7 years ago, in August, we have more checks are taken a picture of than are handed to tellers already. Wow. And that took about 35 years to get close in ATMs. So noodle on the change. And so the big difference is not the usage and everything. It's done with statistics, 25 million mobile customers, 35 million digital customers, growing 15% a year. Transaction volume, 53% of all payments are digital already. That's all great. The difference is for all of us as providers of services is the way people are going to expect to be served is this way. Before it was we're kind of helping them because we knew it would be more efficient and potentially more interesting. And that is a whole different framework when you are struggling, as you and mayors do, with long-term investments for infrastructure around digital and mobile. That is a tough nut. You know, I can invest for 10 years. It's a trickier element for you guys, but we invest $3 billion to be competent in technology a year. We have to keep it safe, but it's really that difference in behavior, and every year that'll get more and more true as more and more cohorts come in and more cohorts get used to using it. So it's going to be demand-driven now, and that's what we try to position ourselves.
Marty? No, we just do the same thing. I mean, we're converting processes to better access our constituents online. You know, obviously it's a little different from the banks, but it's the same type of thing as far as getting more access to technology to pay bills and make life simpler for folks. Our Office of Financial Empowerment, we have an office in Boston that's helping trying to create wealth for folks, and so technology is part of that office as well. And that's where we line with the banks and how to move things. Our Office of Small Business Development, helping entrepreneur access credit, again, and teaching them some of the skills. That's where, you know, teaching a small business how to work with a bank online is important and cuts back on some of their costs. So I think that's key.
And so, you know, you hear a lot about fintech and things like that. It's the core of what we do now. And so what I encourage all of you as executives across an expense base, at our company, we've gone from $73 billion in annual operating expenses to 54 last year across 8 years. Just noodle on that question. And so what we've been able to do then is create even beyond that investment dollars to increase our technology development from about $1.5 billion a year to $3 billion. So as operators of major enterprises, there's an efficiency and effectiveness on top of the customer service elements that is critical. And if you can use that, especially as we get to learn what artificial intelligence does for us and all these things, you can do it. So even you can get a lot of benefit out. We'll give you the money to invest in some stuff, but it takes that transition and it takes the guts to make it happen. And I think that's always trickier in a political sense because of the for-profit country versus a political environment. But the reality is, the nice thing is the customers want it from you, and that gives you that permission. But you can make a change in a company or an operating thing that's hugely different. And it starts from thinking about from back to front. We are only scratching the surface here from what we ultimately will do.
Are you seeing these changes across demographics as well, this demand? Because much of the things that we're adjusting to, oftentimes our citizens want them before we adjust. Are you seeing those, not just millennials, but perennials as well?
I always laugh because we got a little contest for people to enroll in mobile banking around the company, because I mentioned once that we had a 90-year-old enroll, and then I got one from a 92-year-old and a 95-year-old, and then finally the 100-year-old, which you talk about optimism, you're rolling in mobile banking 100 years old. That's a pretty good statistic. So the cohort has shifted now. So the demographics are shifted. The important thing is, and this is actually relevant for constituent service and customer service, we still have 850,000 people go into our branches every day. And the key is we want the more difficult interfaces to go to the person and the more routine to go to the technology. It's a flip that we want to drive more people towards the branches and because we want engaged dialogues. And so I think thinking this as an integrated, not a disintegrated, not all mobile or all physical. It's actually an integrated platform. And I think for constituent service, you have to have both, and then ultimately you move them. And people as old as we are and stuff, they all are used to it now. And then another 10 years, most of the people will have, this is the only thing they'll know how to do.
It's exciting. You guys, as we wrap up, would you both just give me quickly what you think the most critical issues facing cities might be, and maybe what some opportunities might be to work together to address them?
Two things. One is I want to thank Bank of America and Brian for not investing in creation of guns to be used by some of the assault weapons. And I know Brian could talk about that, but we have young people from Parkland here. We have young people from Boston Public Schools here, and I want to thank you for that. I know you can talk about that a little later. I think the biggest thing that we can do together is continue to collaborate in the city of Boston. Bank of America is part of helping us build affordable housing on two projects, one in Bartlett Yard and one on Boylston Street, right down the street from here. And then also some of the nonprofits that helping them get the financing together. I think that's what we can do. And I really think it's important for us to, as a mayor, to talk to our banks and talk to our financial institutions, because they can see what's coming in the future, and we can prepare to make sure that we don't make mistakes that jeopardize the future of our cities.
I think, first on Mayor Walsh's comments, we're proud to do what we did because it was driven by the fact that we started counting up all the people who lost a person in other communities, starting in Charleston and in the Post nightclub and in Parkland and Las Vegas and in Houston. And we just said, at some point we have to try to help here. There's a limit of what we could do. It's not a position against all the different things going on. It's a really limited view that says we ought to be able to help on this pure issue. And so we announced a policy, and not everybody's going to love it, but it was the right policy about a specific issue, which we think, but it came from our teammates saying, wait a second, every city, every one of these things happens. We have people, including in north of England, including in the Ariana Grande concert. I had 10 associates in there or something like that. And so I'm getting reports all around of that. And that came from really protecting our team and thinking through them and the communities they serve. And that's been kind of interesting to hear people's response to it. As recently as last week, I got a teammate who was probably on the other side of this issue, and then what happened in Nashville happened. He said, "Now I understand why we're doing this," and so it always seems distant until it happens. Going back to more broadly your question in cities, I think as mayors, I think obviously it's education, housing, and keeping them safe. Because at the end of the day, when I think about where we locate things, we need safe cities, and so. And that Mayor Walsh is lucky to have a tremendous police force here in Boston and many other cities, but and the difficulties with that in the environment that we're in with what went on in Charlotte, for example, and other communities with the interaction between police and the community. So how you run community policing, how you do it well, I think is a major task for mayors around the country. But then on top of that, more things that we are more directly involved in. I think the housing issues are going to be important, because remember, the other problem we have is we have to have places for our workers to work, and if we're going to be growing our workforce in your city, we need housing available. We pay people enough that affordability is probably not the major issue, but we will put pressure on the city if we bring 100 people to the city and force 100 people out, and so we share a like interest and rely on us to give us that. And then it's education, and we were talking a lot backstage that as we look around the country, whether it's pre-K, read by third grade, STEM in middle school, teacher principal competency, vocational school type training in high school to lead to jobs, community college execution. There's a myriad of programs, and I think that all of you are familiar with all these. And it's corporate America, corporate world's job to help you make those effective where we can make a difference. Mm-hmm. But in a day, the U.S. doesn't have enough people with the training right now, and we got to get after it fast, or else we're going to start to suffer against the rest of the world.
Amen. Well, thank you for being both great panelists, and I look forward to a greater partnership with you. Marty, thanks for being a great host. All right, thank y'all.